hadn't been home for more than 20 minutes before I noticed something was different. The house smelled the same. Mom's old lavender candles still sat untouched on the mantel, and the worn-out recliner my dad refused to throw out was in its usual spot. But there was a new pair of boots by the door. Large, leather, well-worn. Not Dad's. "Jerry!" my dad called from the kitchen. "Arthur's here. Remember Arthur?" I remembered. Arthur was the friend who used to come over during barbecues, the guy with the loud laugh and firm handshake. When I was younger, he was like a shadowy hero figure, always calm, always confident. He drove a black truck, smoked cigars like a movie star, and had that kind of smile that made people lean in closer when he talked. Back then, I thought he was just cool. Now, I wasn't so sure cool was the word anymore. I dropped my duffel, bag by the stairs, and walked into the kitchen, where Arthur stood talking with my dad over 2 beers. He turned when he saw me, and it was like a slap to the chest. "Jerry?" he said, flashing that same perfect smile. "Jesus, you grew up." His voice was deeper than I remembered. Smooth, settled. The kind of voice you could fall asleep to, even if he was just reading a grocery list. I shrugged. College does that to a guy. He reached out for a quick shake, and when our hands touched, something zinged under my skin. Maybe I imagined it, but I saw it flicker in his eyes, too, just a split second. Then it was gone, and he was back, to chuckling with my dad like old times. Arthur was staying with us for a couple of weeks while his place was getting renovated. Something about water damage and his contractor being a flake. I didn't catch all the details. I was too distracted watching the way he moved. Effortlessly masculine, like he didn't need to prove anything to anyone. His hair was mostly salt, now with streaks of silver, but it worked on him. It made him look sharper, wiser, dangerous in a way. I felt stupid for noticing. He was my dad's best friend, probably twice my age, off limits in every possible way. Still, I kept catching myself glancing at him when I thought no one was looking. The way his shirt stretched just enough over his chest. The way he rested one hand in his pocket like he was always halfway between relaxing and commanding a room. He hadn't even been here a full day, and I was already feeling twisted up. And the worst part? Part of me hoped he'd notice. It was one of those summer afternoons that felt like it stretched on forever. The kind where time slows down and the heat sticks to your skin like syrup. I'd just come back from a jog around the neighborhood, my way of pretending I was still keeping up with my college fitness goals. My shirt was drenched, my legs were sore, and all I wanted was a cold shower. I kicked my sneakers off by the door and peeled my sweaty shirt over my head as I stepped into my room. The window was cracked open, letting in a soft breeze that did nothing against the stickiness clinging to my skin. I reached for the waistband of my shorts, letting them fall around my ankles, leaving me standing in nothing but a pair of tight, navy blue briefs. The fabric hugged my hips, damp from sweat. That's when the door opened. "Hey, Jerry, do you—" Arthur's voice cut off abruptly. I froze. He was standing there in the doorway, caught mid-sentence, one hand still on the knob. His eyes locked onto me, and for a moment, neither of us moved. It couldn't have been more than 3 seconds, but it felt like a full minute passed between us. His eyes didn't dart away the way someone polite would have done. No. His gaze lingered, traveled, slowly, from my face, down my chest, across my stomach, and lower. I saw his jaw tighten just slightly, the kind of shift you'd only notice if you were watching closely. He finally blinked, cleared his throat, and stepped back. "Shit. Sorry, kid. Didn't know you were, busy." The door closed behind him, gently. Not slammed, not rushed, just closed. I stood there, heart pounding so loud I thought it might echo through the walls. The air in the room suddenly felt thick and charged, like after a lightning strike. I grabbed a towel from the chair and threw it over my shoulder, still catching my breath. What just happened? I'd had moments before, awkward run-ins in locker rooms, passing glances at the gym, but nothing like that. Nothing where the person looking at me was a grown man I'd known since I was a kid. Nothing where that look carried weight. Because Arthur hadn't looked at me like an accident. He'd looked at me like he was caught somewhere between hunger and restraint. Like he wasn't sure if he should be sorry or satisfied, and it didn't scare me, it excited me. I looked in the mirror, brushing damp hair back from my forehead. My skin was flushed, my eyes still wide. I wasn't imagining it, right? That moment had happened. That look, that pause. He saw me. Not as a kid. Not as my dad's son, but as something else. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if it would ever happen again. But I knew one thing for sure. Arthur had walked in on me changing, and he didn't leave right away. Something changed after that day. Arthur didn't mention the walk-in, not directly, not with words. But I could feel the shift in him, like the dial had been turned just a bit higher, the current between us a little stronger. He started complimenting me more. "You've filled out since college started," he said, one morning over coffee, his eyes casually sweeping over my arms. "Working out's paying off." His tone was relaxed, almost fatherly, but there was something just beneath it. Something unspoken that curled around each word like smoke. At first I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, that I was reading too much into it. But it kept happening, like the day we were watching a baseball game in the living room. I was sitting on the floor, leaning against the couch where he sat. We were close enough for his leg to press against my shoulder. At one point, he reached down to adjust a cushion, and his fingers brushed my arm, and didn't move away right away. They rested there for a second, maybe two, long enough to feel intentional. He started lingering in conversations with me longer than necessary, asking about school, my relationships, what I wanted to do after graduation. And he listened, really listened, like I was someone whose words mattered. It was disarming. And then came the night that tipped the balance. Dad had gone to bed early after a few too many beers, mumbling something about back pain and crashing before the third inning ended. Arthur stayed up, lounging on the back patio with a whiskey in his hand, and that unreadable expression he always wore when he was deep in thought. I joined him, not even bothering to ask if he minded. I poured myself something from the bottle. He brought over and sat beside him in the dark, the porch lights casting just enough glow to catch the silver in his hair. "You ever get the feeling like you're caught in between versions of yourself?" I asked him, already a little buzzed. Arthur looked over at me, lips curling into something half smile, half wound. "All the time." We sat there in silence for a moment, listening to the hum of the summer night. "You're different than I expected," he said eventually, turning to face me. "Smarter, sharper, more grown up." I looked at him, heart thudding. "You mean that?" He nodded, sipping his drink. "Yeah, you're not a kid anymore, Jerry." The way he said my name made my stomach twist. I shifted slightly in my chair, turning more toward him. The air between us felt electric again. Familiar. "I've been thinking about that day," I said carefully. Arthur didn't pretend not to know which day. His jaw flexed. "So have I." We looked at each other for a long time. No jokes, no casual deflection. Just heavy, honest silence. I don't know who leaned in first. Maybe it was both of us. Maybe it was some magnetic pull we couldn't resist anymore. Our faces were just inches apart, breath mingling. The scent of whiskey and sweat and summer, heat mixing between us. My eyes flicked down to his lips. He hesitated. His hand touched mine on the armrest, warm and steady. And then he pulled back. "Jerry," he said softly, almost pained. "We shouldn't." The spell broke, just like that. I blinked, heart pounding, blood rushing loud in my ears. "Why not?" He looked away, jaw tight. "Because I'm your dad's best friend. Because you're young. And this would be a mistake." He stood up before I could answer and walked back inside, leaving his half-finished drink on the table. I sat there alone in the dark, staring at the glass he left behind. My chest felt hollow and hot all at once. I didn't know if I wanted to scream or chase after him. That almost kiss had cracked something wide open inside me, and now I didn't know how to seal it back up. He wanted it. I saw it. I felt it. So why did he stop? Was it guilt? Fear? Or was this all just a game he liked playing? I sat out there for a long time, trying to figure out which possibility hurt more. Arthur avoided me for 2 full days. He wasn't rude or cold, just distant. He stopped lingering in doorways, stopped sitting too close. He barely looked me in the eye when we passed in the hallway. When I entered a room, he found an excuse to leave it, and I let it happen for those 2 days, giving him space, hoping he'd come around. But by the 3rd evening, I couldn't take it anymore. He was out in the garage, half-heartedly organizing a shelf of old tools my dad never touched. The overhead light buzzed above us, casting a dull yellow glow. I leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. You avoiding me? Or is this just your version of cleaning? I asked. Arthur didn't look up. Just staying busy. Right. He wiped his hands on an old rag. His shoulders were tense, jaw set. He looked like a man holding back a storm. You've barely said 10 words to me since the other night, I said. What happened out there, Arthur? He sighed, finally meeting my eyes. You know what happened. Then why are you acting like it didn't? He looked down at the floor. Because I don't know what to do with it, Jerry. Start by being honest. There was a long pause. Then his voice came low and rough, like it scraped its way out of his throat. I felt something, that night, the other day, hell, even before that. I swallowed hard. So did I. Arthur stepped back, resting his weight against the tool cabinet. It's not supposed to be like this. You're, what, 21? 22 in a month. He gave a tired laugh. Great. That makes it all better. I'm not a kid. You're my best friend's son, he snapped. You know what it would do to him if he ever found out? He doesn't have to find out, I said quickly, too quickly. And it's not like I'm being taken advantage of here. I know what I want. Arthur shook his head. You think you do? That's patronizing as hell. He stared at me, chest rising and falling like he was trying to outrun his own thoughts. You want to know what scares me? He said finally. It's not the guilt. It's not even your dad. It's that this doesn't feel like a mistake. My breath caught in my throat. It should, he went on. It should feel wrong. But it doesn't. It feels real. Something in me broke, open at those words. I stepped toward him, my voice low and sure. Then stop pretending you don't want this. Because I see it, Arthur. I feel it. You're not hiding it as well as you think. He didn't move. I took another step, closing the distance between us. I've been trying to talk myself out of wanting you since the day you walked in on me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But I can't. And I don't think you can either. His eyes searched mine like he was looking for a reason not to do what we both knew was coming. But then, he stopped searching. He reached for me suddenly, one hand cupping the side of my face, the other gripping the back of my neck. And then he kissed me. Hard, fierce, like something inside him had finally snapped. I melted into it. His mouth was warm, urgent, tasting like everything I'd wanted for weeks. His fingers curled into my hair, and I pressed into him, my hands, sliding up his chest, feeling every inch of muscle, every heartbeat racing beneath his skin. It wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was a dam breaking. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathless. Arthur rested his forehead against mine, his voice hoarse. This is going to ruin me, he said. I smiled against his lips. Then let's ruin together. The first night after the kiss, neither of us said anything. We didn't need to. The look in his eyes told me everything. That he wasn't going to pretend anymore. That whatever line we'd crossed, there was no going back. It started slow, careful, secret. After everyone went to bed, I'd wait in my room with the door cracked open, lights off, heart pounding. And sometime after midnight, I'd hear the soft knock. 2 quiet taps. My signal. Arthur never said a word when he slipped inside. He'd close the door behind him and just look at me. That look was like gravity, and I was already falling. He was different in the dark. The confident, stoic man my dad had always known became something else entirely. Gentle, sensual, almost reverent. Like every touch was a confession, every kiss a risk he was willing to take. His fingers would trace the line of my jaw, linger over my chest, his lips brushing my skin like he was memorizing it. I'd never been touched like that before. He didn't rush. Ever. No fumbling, no ego. Just deliberate, slow movements like he wanted to savor me. I learned the sound of his breath when I kissed his neck, the way his voice dropped when I whispered his name. We never turned the lights on, maybe to hide, maybe to make it feel like it wasn't real, but it was. Every night felt more real than the last. And that's what scared me, because I wasn't just craving him anymore. I was starting to feel something, deeper. I'd lie awake after he slipped out of my room, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The way his fingers curled around mine. The way he'd press his forehead against mine when he thought I was asleep. I was falling for him, hard, and it was killing me. Every time we laughed at breakfast or talked in front of my dad, a knot twisted in my stomach. I was lying to him. We were both lying. And the longer it went on, the heavier it got. One night, everything almost fell apart. We were in the downstairs guest room, Arthur's room. We'd kissed our way onto the bed, sheets tangled around us, his shirt already discarded, my breath catching against his throat. Then we heard footsteps. Heavy ones. Coming down the hall. Arthur froze. Shit! He leapt off me, grabbing his shirt, tossing it toward the hamper just as the door handle jiggled. Arthur? My dad's voice, thick with sleep. You up? Arthur stepped to the door, cracked it open just enough. Yeah, couldn't sleep. Too hot. My dad grunted. Thought I heard something. Just knocked over a lamp, Arthur said smoothly. All good. The hallway went quiet again. Eventually, the footsteps retreated. Arthur closed the door and leaned against it, face pale. That was close, I whispered, sitting up, heart pounding. He nodded, running a hand through his hair. Too close. We didn't touch again that night. In the following days, something shifted again. We were still together, still sneaking moments. A hand on my back when no one was watching, a kiss stolen in the garage. But there was tension. Now. Like we were walking a tightrope. One wrong move and everything would come crashing down. I could see it in his eyes, too. The guilt. The fear. The way he hesitated now before knocking on my door at night. The way he lingered just a second too long before slipping away again. We were playing with fire. And even though I didn't want it to stop, I could feel it coming. Someone was going to get hurt. It happened on a Friday night. Arthur had come to my room late, like usual. But this time, I didn't pull him onto the bed. I didn't reach for him. I just sat there staring at him in the dim light from my desk lamp, chest tight, heart louder than it should have been. I can't keep doing this, I said quietly. He froze. What do you mean? This, I said, motioning between us. Sneaking around, waiting for my dad to fall asleep. Acting like none of it means anything in the daylight. His brows furrowed. It does mean something, you know that. Then why am I still your secret? He exhaled, long and heavy. Jerry, it's not that simple. Actually it is, I snapped, my voice rising. Either this is real, or it's not. Either you want me, or you're just using me to feel alive again. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is pretending like we're something only when the lights are off. I want more, Arthur. I want you to choose me. Out loud. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw it. The fear in his eyes. The wall he wasn't ready to climb over. I can't, he said, barely above a whisper. I can't betray your father like that. I've known him half my life. He trusts me. He trusts us. And what about me? I shot back. Don't. I matter? He stepped closer, hands trembling slightly. You matter too much. That's why I have to do the right thing. I felt something crack inside me. No, you're just scared. You're a coward, Arthur. He didn't say anything after that. Just stood there, the space between us stretching into something unfixable. And then he left. The next morning, his car was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just silence. Months passed. Back at college, life moved forward, but I didn't feel like I had. I went to classes, hung out with friends, laughed when I was supposed to. But something inside me stayed distant, like Part of me had been left behind in that summer house, in those secret nights. I never told anyone about Arthur. Not really. It felt too sacred, too complicated to explain. Then, one rainy afternoon in October, I opened my campus mailbox and froze. Inside was an envelope. No name on the front, just my address. The handwriting was familiar. Arthur. I took it back to my dorm, hands trembling, heart pounding like it hadn't in months. I read it alone, twice. He apologized, not just for leaving, but for being afraid, for hurting me. He said he'd thought about me every single day since, that no one had ever made him feel the way I did. The last line stayed with me. If you ever want to see me again, I'll be waiting. I walked back to the mailbox the next morning, clutching the envelope, staring at the return address. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I'd never forget him. Never.